This conference will now be recorded.
Sorry. Who's that?
Trying to call Greg Tiny.
Start
This
talking.
conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we will open up this special session of the Common Council for the City of Port Orford, December 5th, 2024 at 5:07. Call to order. What did I do?
Nothing.
It's me, I'm laughing at me.
I'll do a quick roll call. Councilor Pogwitz,
Tim here.
Councilor Velisis,
Here.
Councilor Burns,
Here.
Councilor Webb,
Webb, present.
and we have Councilor Tidy on the way. So yeah, we should still do the pledge.
Said she's had auto difficulty.
Okay.
So she may be late.
Okay.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. So I would,
Entertain a motion to go into the.
yeah,
Under. Or.
and I would entertain a motion to go into executive session under ORS 1926602I to review and evaluate the employment-related performance of the chief executive officer of any public body, a public officer, employee, or staff member who does not request an open hearing.
So moved. Second.
Okay, quick vote. Tim,
Tim, yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Brett,
Webb, yes.
Gary,
Yes.
and okay.
This conference will now be recorded.
Why is my chair so short?
I didn't do it.
Did you do that?
I did not.
You sure?
Perfectly
There,
sure.
I'm a mayor again. All right, so we are out of executive session at 6:00. Sorry about it was just so much good stuff. All right, so we are going to move on to was there any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, we're going to go to our presentation to the council by Ann Heath. Financial checkup, some good solid reporting for the end of the year. Thank you, Ann.
Good evening. My name is Ann Heath. I am coming here as a contractor for a third party that I work with to help oversee, review, and develop some numbers for you to look at, and going forward to help with budget and audit as needed. I am retired. I work part-time for small cities. I retired as a city administrator. Before I was city administrator, I was finance director, and before that I was a department director. So I've really ran the gamut of jobs in the city. I get it from beginning to end. So I want to share that when I entered the city that I managed as a finance person, in the first month I was there, I found out that the general fund was $860,000 in the red, and the council was not aware. And so I got to break that news. When I left, the city was solvent and the general fund was solvent. So it's a lot of work to manage a city and to keep it solvent. And so I do bring some experience with that. So having said that, I did prepare some sheets for you to look at tonight. The first thing I want to say about the sheets is that the spreadsheets are complex and they're a work in progress. What I'm trying to do is create something that is useful for you and the staff to be able to grasp what the financial condition of your city is. And so don't get hung up on the look or the There might be things that look a little weird. You can ask questions about them, maybe not tonight, or if you want to see something different on the page, we can tweak it. So this is a beginning of a design of something that should be helpful to you. The first thing that I want to talk about, if we can roll forward, is what the purpose of a general fund is because this is really important information. A general fund is the primary fund of the city, and the general purpose is to cover the administration of the city. It has revenues, it has outflows, and it's not for special funds such as, it can be used. You can send money to other funds, but the primary reason that the general fund exists is not to transfer money to other funds. And so the activities being paid for the general fund should be for the general operations of the city, and other funds have their special use and special needs that they hopefully have revenues to cover. So having said that, I would like to move forward and I might get up and point. I'm only pushing the screen up here so I maybe can point to boxes for you to find on your sheet, because this is a complex. So the purpose of this sheet, really honestly, if you find this box right here on your sheet, is to say, at the end of this fiscal year, how much money are we going to have? So if everything goes right, our revenues are up here at the top of there, and we're saying, these are actuals, we've been through those months, we know what we got in those months, and here's what we're predicting for the rest of the year, and if all that works out, this is how much money we're gonna have at the end of the year. Now, for your general fund right now, you started out, if you go to this box right here, you're in the red right now. You started the year in the red. And at the end of October, your general fund was $113,000 in the red. And so that's a problem. Now you're going to come out of it. You're going to get tax dollars into November. But you have these $225,000 transfers up here that are going to suck the money out of the general fund, and you're going to end your year in the red. Now, $10,000, maybe that doesn't look like a lot. The problem with that is, and this is where small cities really get tripped up, is that you don't get more money until November. So you have what you call the Jason months, July, August, September, October, November, 5 months where you're waiting for more revenues to run your city. You're starting at 9,500 in the red. You need approximately $45,000 a month to operate. So come next November, your numbers are worse than this. They're just compounding. Now, you're sending money out to other funds that you don't have. And so that is it's a problem. And I understand that there's a value there, and you're trying to keep all these balls and they're all values. They're all community values. But you can't lend what you don't have. And you can't give what you don't have. We don't do that in our normal life. And we can't do it with governmental funds. So your transfers out are here. You can look at them on your sheet. I don't want to get that deep into it on this particular fund. But right now, I have a real concern for your general fund. You're broke. You're more than broke. Over here in 2023, if you look at your transfers out in 673, or in 2023, you've gutted your general fund by transferring money out. Where that, I need to dig deeper I haven't had time to dig to see exactly where did that money go. I'm guessing you're trying to support other funds that needed that. But if you look clear at the top of that column where it says beginning fund balance for 2023, you started with $410,000 as a beginning fund balance. You ended 2023 with $91,000. So the general fund has really taken a hit. And it's a serious hit. And you're going to have to figure out what to do about that. If we move to the next parks, the next sheet is parks. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this. You can see that parks is sitting pretty solid. It came into the year solid and it maintains its solid. So you can look at it. I don't feel I want to spend time on it. If you go to the next one, it is public safety. So this is another big concern because, can you move forward to that one? Sorry, these sheets are big.
Sorry about that.
So public safety started the year okay, but they're also in the red right now. In October, they're going to get their tax dollars, and they look like they would end the year with money. The problem with this is that, again, they need about $200,000 to tide them over to get through those Jason months. And so they're going to be back here come next fall again. And so they're getting approximately $159,000 transferred from the general fund. But the general fund doesn't have it. They can't transfer it. So that compounds this problem with your public safety. And I know public safety is a value. I get it. I have been a city manager. I struggled to keep a police force because it's so important to the community. But you have to find a way to fund it because the general fund, I will show you another form that I'm working on for you, but it's going to be several years before the general fund is in a position to send this kind of money to public safety. It just can't. There's not enough money there. So that is a concerning very concerning situation. Your street also is ending the year in the red. I think this can be solved.
Our street fund is?
If everything goes as planned in June. So that can be solved. It can be solved by looking at the budget and saying, because the street fund holds on to its money. It doesn't have to wait for tax dollars to come in.
This was my baby, you know.
Yeah, and it has this $25,000 transfer out to the general fund. I don't know. There's no notes on your budget to know why we were doing that. It could be that we could say, it's not going to happen. That's not going to help the general fund, but it keeps the street fund solvent. And operating funds. These are not reserves. These are not capital funds. So moving forward to your water fund, the water fund is holding its own. It's healthy. The only concern I would have is that you're entering into some project years. Those are very important years to really keep tabs on what you're doing, to really look at a lot of those grants and loans that you get are reimbursements. So you have to spend the money to get the money back. And so when you only have $100,000 in the bank in your operations, that means that your reimbursements got to go out fast and you get them back fast, or you're having to borrow money from somewhere to get through. And that can happen, and it's okay as long as it's paid back when you get the money in. Sewer fund is also holding its own. I'm not going to spend time talking about the numbers there, but it's pretty healthy.
I think that might be a place where we haven't gotten into those reserve funds because we weren't sure how to spend them. And general fund money and on some sewer and water problems that could have come from these reserve funds
Okay.
that we've just never touched. $500,000, you know.
We can certainly
Just
talk
so
about
you know,
those things. I have not been here long enough to be aware. I'm a bean counter. So I'm looking at your books going, oh, we have problems here.
Right.
I think a lot of those beans that you're looking for on the 300,000 is going to be on engineering.
Yeah.
Because we okayed that engineering that year too, and that it was right around the 300,000 for the big brick grant.
Do you think that came out of general fund?
Yes, I'm very, very certain. I'm still,
But it could have come
That-
out of.
it was not my favorite meeting by any means,
No.
but that is when there was okay. And I'm just saying for you, so to maybe help you
Right,
save
sure.
you time, just look at the
I will
Civil
look.
West bills and there's probably about 298,000 worth of it in
Okay.
that time.
Well, I think that we can have a discussion on steps we can take to
Mhm.
solve this, because it can be solved. So just to share that when I found out my general fund was $800,000 in debt, I started looking at, well, what's going on? Well, none of the other funds of the city were paying their share. The general fund was paying for everything. Water and sewer are businesses that have bills, and one of those bills is to pay their fair share of running the city. And so we went back 8 years and we said, had they paid their share, what would that mean for the general fund? And it made a huge difference. And the council was able to make a one-time transfer of funds that really helped.
Yeah.
And so those kind of things, looking at those bills, those are kind of things that you as a council can make decisions on.
Is there any way, let's say it was engineering for trying to, I mean, we're setting up for a big brick grant. If we find that, can we use any of the water fund money if we find that it was specific? I mean, it was all for water. It was for water improvements.
Right,
It
you
was
would-
engineering, is that, well, I guess you're kind of saying if we do it as a council, we have options to make it
You
work.
absolutely have
Taking
options.
one more gallon of water.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's where I think,
And we didn't know that.
The thing we have to keep in mind just on that front, Pat, is that we did pledge some match money too. And so for that brick grant.
right.
And so we have more to pay. I mean, some of it will be coming, some of the match is from those engineering funds we already paid. So that's where,
Oh, but they did come out of that and it wasn't out of general fund. I just,
well, I don't know. I don't know. where it
Well,
came
we
from.
can look at that.
yeah, and we're not going to figure it out tonight. I'm
We're not
sorry.
going to figure out tonight.
Just the
Okay.
30
Yeah, I did.
35,000.
I got my mind rolling.
I'll do that.
Yes, he is want to do that.
I will do that.
So the next form I'm going to share with you, or the report I'm going to share with you, is this is a monthly report that I like to give my council. And this helped them to see every operating fund. I didn't give them all of the little, we kept everything in the operating funds. Number one, we didn't have 14 funds. We decided not to do that. It's too complicated. So these are the operating funds of the city. This report gives you how much did each fund spend in October, how much have they spent year to date, and what is the budget, and where are we at?
These are the revenues, right? So
These are the
what we
revenues.
have.
So if you put that next to the next page, your expenses. So October is the fourth month, July, August, September, October of the year. So you should be at 33%. If everything was going perfect, but we all know that things don't come in. Some things are timely. Taxes come in November. So we get that. But the key to look at is, are your revenues and expenses tracking together? Are we bringing in more than we're spending? And in this case, your revenues and your expenses are between 15 and 16%. So they're tracking together. That's good. That's good. Also, your expenses are at 15%, which means your staff is being really careful in spending. They are not out there spending a bunch of money. Concerns up in the Parks Fund, you have a revenue, 54% revenue. I believe you got a grant.
DLT funding, I think.
Yeah, so it's in your Parks Fund, and so that's high. And in your Public Safety Fund for expenses, that's at 36%, so that's a little bit high. They may have had a big purchase that's a timely purchase that's pushed that. But generally, if this is helpful, this is a good report for council. This tells you kind of how the city's tracking with revenues and expenses.
Seems super helpful.
Yeah, it really helps.
Graphs.
Percentage.
We got our graphs.
And part of this too was, just so you know, that for public safety, that was when the insurance, when the crash happened and then we were getting the monies and we had to pay for that. That's what that is. So that, just to be
Yeah,
clear,
it's
that was something
timely.
from a,
Sometimes it happens.
Yep, from a,
If 2 months from the end of the year, you're way over, or even 3 months from the end of the year, that's when it starts being crucial of, ooh, things are not looking good. So the next one is your cash on hand, and councils normally don't see this, but I think in this case, you need to see this on a monthly basis so you know where your money is. You have 2 bank accounts and a savings, not much in savings at all. So yeah, not much. So the important thing right here to point out is your general and your public safety funds are both in the red completely. There's no money anywhere for them. And what you have here is an undocumented interfund loan. You haven't voted to send money anywhere. And we don't know where the money's coming from, sorry. We don't know where the money's come from. It's undocumented. It's just not it. So you're spending other fund money right now. Basically, normally what a city would do is say, ooh, we're running out of money in the general fund. We're not going to get any. We need to borrow money from somewhere. And you would borrow it from another fund, and that would be by resolution of city council to make that decision.
So money could be taken out of water and put into the general fund.
It can, but the general rule is you have to pay it back by the end of the year, by the end of the fiscal year. So you have to be real careful.
That money is designated for that account.
Right. So yes, you can absolutely loan, other interfund loans can take place.
They're just a loan, and
I mean, I've seen it where loans were several years and they still weren't paid back. But generally the rule is you have to pay it back by the end of the year.
So we're doing it backwards.
You kind of are.
Is that what?
So I wouldn't establish interfund loans right now because in November, both general fund and police fund become solvent with the tax dollars. You have a couple months to look at it and decide, what are we going to do?
Right.
What, so.
the
But
options.
generally speaking, we've been leaving the spare change in the general fund and robbing from it rather than,
Yeah.
so it's good stuff for budget.
If you're a general fund, so in the city, one of the cities I work for, their rule was the general fund at the end of the year can have no $50,000 in it. And that was their goal, to reach that amount. And every fund had a certain amount that had to be left in that fund and unspent at the end of the year. If your general fund has that kind of money, then they're in the position to loan money to the other funds. They're in the position to solve problems in streets. If they need to, they're the only fund that can do that legally. So
There's a benefit of having that place of accumulation, and it would.
It
be
is.
interest, right? I mean, when you.
So your goal is to build up your general fund so there is, you could have a big emergency in your streets and have to fix it, and you don't. So the general fund, you can send money over to streets and not have to pay it back. Whereas if the general fund borrows money from streets, back or sewer, does that make?
Got to have money to send over, or
But you have to have money sent over.
therein lies the problem.
Can any of this be fixed with a supplemental budget? I mean, nobody wants to talk about that halfway through the year, but
Well, the interfund loans,
just
they're,
all of it in general. Like, I mean, yeah, it's cool that we're tracking at 15% on the expenditures and the, but if we're tracking a budget that's in the red, then
Yeah.
like, do we have to, that's the first thing to adjust that budget so it's not?
Well-
I mean, because we're going to have to do what we have to do regardless, and isn't doing that budget a process that would kind of have that conversation, or we just kind of.
you don't have to do a supplement budget if you're not going to spend what you budgeted. Nobody cares. I mean, if you.
Okay, then, so that would be another option, okay.
Yeah, if you reduce your budget and you say, I know this is budget, and we're not going to spend it,
Mhm,
then you don't have to do anything.
okay.
If you, so if you receive revenues less than what you budgeted, you don't have to do anything. And so if you just chose not to transfer funds to another fund, there's no, you don't have to fix anything. So there's not a supplemental budget. This should have been a supplemental, or this should have been some kind of a transfer of funds or something, and then maybe paid back by the end of the year, but.
So if it's 45,000 a month, 5 months, so really in a perfect world, 250,000 on that starting balance.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, is you need to have that balance because you have those 5 months that you have to cover. You get very little revenue during that time.
What did we do like this year? Well, those ones that were in the red, where does the money?
You've been in the
Coming
red
from
since the
LGIP.
beginning of the year.
This is where it gets convoluted because you have money in the bank, but as far as this paper is concerned, this money's for this money's for this money's for this. So, it's like the ATM machine, it's going to suck it out from wherever it comes from. But then when you do the reconciliation at the end of the month, that's where our problem is because it should, even though the money's in there, you got to have the whole like pot in there to spend it responsibly, I guess.
And what I will say is that we have been able to feel better for these few months because we have implemented the STRs. And so that's one-time money that came in. And so we were able to use that. So we weren't drawing a bunch of money out of the LGIP. I mean, there's some. And the other thing is with business licenses. So those are things that happen right at the beginning of the fiscal year. And so those monies were able to backfill some of this, which is why, so that is timely during those Jason months, right? So that is a timely thing that happened this year. So we didn't have to do as many, Dina didn't have to do as many transfers out of the LGIP into our regular funds to pay that, but that's one-time money, one-time situation. So we're not going to have that big bulk
Right.
that drops in here in another couple months to help fill these,
Right.
to fill these gaps. And I think that's something that did help us,
Yeah.
to
I
do.
think that we may be able to fix it over time by maybe having the summer gas tax and doing some of these other, I've looked up all the ways we can make money, and they're almost all taxes. But if we're able to tax the tourists in a way that benefits the city and it's not nailing the residents as much, we ought to be investigating that especially.
Well, and one other thing to throw out there is if you were going to do a special election or go to an adjustment to the bond with what's going on with the county and everything right now, it would be kind of a good time to figure out what we would need to be, break even, and then make that the number for the bond. And then that would answer that question. And if that was figured out, then I mean, that's the biggest concern as far as just numbers wise,
Right.
But it's like, that's where you get into, I mean, you're talking about a function that everybody's willing to pay for. I mean, we slide 159,000 over there. The problem is we just don't have the 159 to slide over
Right.
there right now.
And
So
that's-
maybe, and I don't even know, that's just me thinking off the top of my head while we're doing this, but
So when you were saying 45,000 a month, is that for for the general fund, but then also $45,000 a month for the public safety.
Public safety, I think, is around 40, but something like that. Yeah, that's their expenses for the month. They don't have a lot of materials and service expenses, and I think they're pretty careful, is what I understand.
Yeah, they're very careful.
But their personal services, and your personal services, that is your greatest asset of the city, is your staff. So it's a hard decision to look at that and say, something's got to change here, because they are the boots on the ground, and they're the one that are making your city run. And so it's a very difficult discussion. But we'll have to figure out something. And so so the last sheet I want to show you, the first thing I want you to do is, I should have done this, is write prototype on it. Because this is not, I don't want you to think that this is a fact sheet for you to use. There is information about your general fund on it, but it's a work in progress. And basically, this is what I used to look forward with all my funds to make sure that they continue to be solvent. And that is, when you do your budget, and I am working on this for you right now, even though we're not in budget yet, you look out 5 years. So you have your budget right here, and then you're adding in 4 more years to your budget, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to do my carryovers every year, and I'm going to look out 5 years, and 5 years from now, is my fund sold? Because I'm going to tell you right now, your general fund, it's not going to be solvent. In 5 years, it's not going to be solvent if you don't make a drastic change in how you manage it. But when it's not this big, and staff can go back at budget time and look at this and go, you know what? We got a $50,000 or $100,000 problem. That means we've got to start cutting some funds in these other years to get to the point where we are in the green 5 years from now. And we remain there. That can happen at budget time, but it's a lot of work. Once you have your budget into the sheet, this is not a lot of work to add in your projected years, because all we're doing is growing by what amount we think we should.
And the key thing that's there that just shows you the problem too is that the revenues are only increasing by 3%, but the costs are increasing by 4 or more percent.
Measure 5.
That's like the underlying problem.
And so then the other piece that you really have to be aware of is when you are raising personal, or you're adding new staff, or you're giving big raises. I always like to show council not what it means in the year to come, but what it means because it's compounded. It's continuing, because you're adding 4% or 5%. And keeping that in your some of it is not just raises.
Right.
Medical insurance, I think 2 years ago went up 14% in your PERS. There's expenses that staff have no say about in their salary, but it's tied to the salary amounts.
And they're not getting anything more.
They're not getting anything more, but the expenses for payroll, so when you're adding new employees, that's compounding. So be careful with that. Sometimes you can use that contract employees to fill the places.
Without benefits.
Yeah, I mean, there's reasons for having personnel, and it's a very good reason. But sometimes if it's like, say you have a project and it's a project, don't bring a staff member on for that project or for the 2 years when that project's running. You're better off to look at, can we hire a contractor? Because you're going to have to lay them off anyway. So, and the cost, when you add in all the added amount, you're looking at about 34% or more on a staff salary.
Right.
So,
That they're really not even finding any benefit from.
so again, please, I want to reiterate, don't take these numbers and make fact out of them, because that's not the intention. The intention was for me to show you what I would like to see you do as a small city.
I love that. I love looking ahead 5 years because I think that's really what we have to do, because especially as we're, planning, if we want to plan to fix infrastructure and stuff like that, saying we're going to need to have matches for different
Mhm.
grants, or we're going to have more of like a backup, or what's the expression, so we, into the future.
Reserve.
Thank you. I think that would be
Okay.
a great tool.
The only other, I think I mentioned a little bit, is your budget and your books are too complicated.
Yep.
Your staff struggle with them. When I say, how much do you pay your city manager? That's a math problem.
Right.
It's spread out
All
over.
those funds.
Oh, we know, yes.
So we wanna-
And you don't need a sewer reserve fund, a sewer capital fund, a sewer STC fund. You can have a sewer fund and have departments for all those things. You can keep bank accounts separately, and you can build a full sewer fund that's one fund that has all the information you need in it. And it keeps separate. You can keep it all separate, but you do not need 14 funds.
Does it help us keep our fingers out of it though? When it's separated like it is?
Well, yes, because you can have a department with its own bank account. Absolutely. You can, with its own money.
Sometimes I see the wisdom in those little buckets because like,
Yeah.
oh, you can't, no.
The fear that I see is in your budget, there is transfers going all over the place. And
There's too much going on.
there's just too much robbing Peter to pay Paul, and there's no notes to see why. And I'm sure at the time it's a good reason. I'm not criticizing the budget. I'm saying that for staff, that is hard. It's hard to follow, and it's so easy to make mistakes.
Well, and it has made it really difficult for us.
Well,
To
there's a bill
understand.
ring.
We haven't had what we
Bill-
needed to make the decisions
Like
we've
when
been
we had to
making.
figure out how much could we pay
It's-
our
It's always been
administrator.
root for parks.
Yeah.
Parks always looks like it's great, but we had put so much out, but I didn't ever put anything out from parks. You know what I mean? It all goes down to staff and everything. When you look at the budget for what parks goes in and out, the way it's been, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and you don't even know how much we pay for
Nope.
staff, because you have to look at 14 different funds to figure it out. And then
It's the only way we can pull it off though. I mean,
So you move all your,
it was.
you can move all your payroll into the general fund and have the other funds reimburse for their staffing, which puts all payroll into one area. And so it's easy to read.
it's way easier, but like the street fund. The street fund, we collect $8,000 from the state and we spend $7,999 on wages, and you spend $1 on materials or no money on materials. And so
And
you.
nothing happens. Well,
nothing
the
happens.
emergency
Not a
fund,
single pothole gets.
nothing
fixed.
ever goes into
But
it.
it pays for the outhouse at the thing and this and that, so, and that's confusing.
It's very confusing.
But this way you'll see it on the other side of it, because everything will be in the general fund, and then those departments will be paying into the general fund. So you'll still get the tracking that you want, but it's just totally flip-flopped in your brain, because it's like, here's our general fund, and then you'll see the one lump payment for payroll or whatever, when we're doing our budgeting out of parks or whatever it is for wages, and
That's just.
you
a-
will be able to
and that's
track
just
it.
a suggestion. It's a suggestion of one way to make it a little bit easier to read your budget. You're a small city, and small cities have citizen interest more than big cities, I think. And so if the citizens can't read the budget, they don't understand the budget, then you're limiting their ability to participate in your city.
That's right.
And it's their city. So,
It's just ours.
I felt limited and I was on the inside.
right. So I can make some suggestions for your budget that will make it a lot easier process for you as a council and budget committee.
So you
and-
could like give us a way that we just need to approve
Moving forward.
Yeah.
and then it would be that way from then on. That's how
Yeah.
it would work.
Yeah, so what you would do is we would decide how you would allocate funds from other funds to the general fund. That's a resolution saying, going forward, this is our policy on how you allocate funds. And then that is used at budget time to design the budget. And so then unless you decide to change that method, it stays the same year after year. And so it's an actual adopted policy of the council of how that is done.
But when's budget next year? We go in March? We start March?
Probably try to start it earlier.
Yeah,
That's
we
what I'm
start
saying. So
January,
moving-
February.
that'd be something you guys should probably start on really
Right.
soon for next year.
Yeah.
So
It's,
it's gonna
I
be.
mean, it's the most important thing. If you
It
don't
is.
have money to pay for the matches or anything, like this is the conversation. Until this is hammered out, until that $9,000 in the red is figured out, it's hard to do anything outside of what we have on the books right now.
Right.
It sounds like somebody that can give us that direction too. finally,
Right.
Where we've asked for years for that direction of how to get it done. It sounds like somebody's not ready to tell us.
Well, what I would suggest is that staff needs to be given direction. So what I would do is direct staff to come back with recommendations on things that you could do to solve this. I think we could do it by January meeting, if that's your
We do have
intention.
a committee.
We do the finance
We
committee.
have a finance committee that's new, and they're working, they're looking at some potential revenue sources. I'm a big fan of selling some of our crappy little lots. And that might bridge that gap for a couple of years or something, but yeah, you can't start with nothing. It's,
Yeah, you really have to you can't kick this can down because what's going to happen is the state, it's very likely that your financial statement for 24 that ended June 30th, your general fund is going to be in the red. I don't know that for a fact right now because there's a lot of things that go into a fund balance besides cash. But I have a good feeling, I haven't got to the end of the year yet and worked on closing your year, but it could very well be in the red. That's against state law.
we've been pretty
So,
conservative with our resources, haven't we? When we talk resources at budget time, we've been pretty conservative there. We haven't like blown that up artificially. You know how it's a guess. You can't just say how much you're going to make. It's a guess because you don't know what the.
Well,
tax-
we were
tax
led to
rate.
believe that we were going to be all right.
Oh, yeah, well,
Well, I'm just saying this
Right.
last year, we were led to believe that. And
we were led,
because we had talked about all the employees giving up a day, a month.
Yeah, I mean,
And then all of a sudden, that wasn't on the table. And so somehow we got misdirected of what was actually going on.
this,
I think there was some of that stealing Peter to pay Paul stuff going on to get us through until the next Jason, I
the
guess.
problem when you do that is, you don't know what your bottom line is. I mean, you have to do this drill down work that I've been working on to find out, okay, what really is the truth here?
that's what I'm still not so convinced.
And then, we have Dina, who's also like, every time the audit comes, it's like so complicated that she's, it's sort of this multiplier effect of complexity that means everything's, opaque. You don't
And that's
know what's
the
going on.
key to all of this stuff is the communication between the administration or the bookkeeper, or whatever you want to call it, the auditor and you guys. But like even the auditors, when you talk to them, are saying the same things. Regardless of what we had before, it's cumbersome at this point to work with people in the field right now. And that's all that has to be said about it. It's like our system does seem a little bit antiquated. Everyone I've talked with outside of the city that works on this is confused as to why we need all the funds that we have. And I mean, the easiest thing is when we come out of this is somebody entertain a motion to either have the finance committee or admin come back with with recommendations to clean this stuff up and get us back on track. And it's as simple as that. It's just.
I moved to direct staff to, come back with recommendations on simplification, of our budget.
I'd second that.
Any discussion?
Tim, I'm muted.
Any discussion, Tim? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Greg?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Brett?
Webb, yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Tim?
Tim, yes.
So I have a question. Can I do that now?
Nope, it's too late.
Okay.
What do you got?
Okay. Well, I just want to be clear to make sure I understand. So you're directing staff to find ways to simplify the budget, like the
So
actual,
pretty much
do the
just come
things,
back
or
with
to
what
come back
she's
with
saying.
recommendations of how to get us back into,
Well, I
Well,
think you
simplify
need,
it, then you can recognize it.
okay. So the first step is to,
I think we could understand it better.
okay,
And then
okay.
Maybe there would be another directive resulting from that.
okay.
But I
That
think
was my
this is-
thinking, but I couldn't, that was,
I think this
Yeah, I know, I
is
understand.
You're like, hey, is
So
that-
much- so helpful compared to like anything I've ever seen before. that-
Yeah.
because it's simple. It's simple. and it can
I'm
be
sorry, the
simpler.
spreadsheets aren't simple, but there's a lot of information in them and it's helpful information once you get used to them.
You gave me more answers right now tonight than I got in 4 years of being here.
Oh, well, thank you. That makes me happy.
No, it's really true.
I'm happy for.
Do you think that our- Do you think that our software is an issue?
I didn't know your software before I started working for you. I worked on a lot of software, but not that one. And I picked it up pretty fast. I mean, I don't think it's an issue. And I think your finance person is doing an outstanding job. I'm reviewing her work and the girl doesn't make a mistake. I mean, she's extremely conscientious and detail oriented, and she's a fine employee for you. I can speak highly of her. So no, I don't think it's the software. Tyler is one of the better softwares out there for small cities. It really
It's
is.
expensive. I think we paid pretty dearly for that when
Yeah.
and then the updates aren't cheap either.
I would have liked to move to it. When I was a city manager, we didn't have the money to move software because it's
It just
costly.
seemed that the reports that it generated were so complicated.
Well, and that's why I'm
That's
giving
it,
you
it's 50 right
spreadsheets.
there.
So the important thing is I can develop these spreadsheets for you to have every month, but in the future, you need to ask for reports from the system that you can go, okay, where did that number come from? And be able to track it back, but
Right.
simple reports,
Right.
not a whole stack of reports that makes no sense to you. So that's what I will try to bring you.
You're
in.
taking the numbers from Tyler, but you're making your own spreadsheets that are
Yeah.
separate in a different program. So that's
Right.
what you're doing the translation for us.
I just find that as a general rule, neither councils nor citizens can read reports coming out of financial software.
Yeah.
They're not finance people.
I
And
think that software though can't spit this out. I mean,
Yeah.
it
Kidding.
should.
well, and maybe we can figure out a way to do
Dumb
it,
it
but.
down.
Well, but it can't because every municipality is different. Every line, there's too many line items, there's too many variables. But that still is our problem, but just the nature of it.
Well, and you're looking at projections. We're projecting. We're trying to project how we're going to end the year. And that is not something that's going to come out of the
Right,
software.
yeah.
So the last thing, is there any more questions for me? So the last thing I want to share is something that was really important in the city I managed, and that was that everybody's working together. Everybody's one mind working together. And that comes from the council setting priorities for the staff. And so we worked on priority budgeting on a very simplified, I mean, you look at big cities and they're using priority-based budgeting. It's a huge undertaking. But for small cities, you can tone it down. And so I'm going to share this document. And then if you want to see it, Melissa has copies. But what happens is staff set their priorities for the coming year. I need a new police car and it's going to cost this much. I need something for the water department. We need to have this training for our staff and it's going to cost this much. And they come to council early, like in February, and they present what they need for the department to the council prior to budget. And then the council builds priorities. So this is a work plan built on the council priorities. This is the work of the city for the year, for the coming year, the budget year. This is what your staff goes back to for their goals, or what are we working on? But the budget is also set on this. So if you say, okay, fine, we're going to get a new car, it's entered here. And then there's a budget for it. So then when someone comes in and they say, well, I need this fixed or that fixed, it gives your city administrator and your staff the ability to say, that's not on the council goals. You're going to have to go to council with that, or the priorities of the city, because they're asking you to spend money you don't have. It's not budgeted. It gives you permission to say, I'm sorry, that's not our priorities for next year, but do come to city council and we can put it on a list for the following year, or we can vote as a council to add it for this year.
And we're not going to do this over here or
Yeah, but you're
somehow.
going to have to take something off because this is a staff capacity document too. This is what the staff thinks they can get done with the capacity that they have. It allows your staff to not have to make decisions that are outside the budget, and it helps you to not make decisions outside the budget. You have set the priorities for your budget. The budget's based on it, and that's the work of the city, and you're all on the same page. You're all on the same page. Everybody's on the same page. The staff, the city administrator, the city council. You're all clear on what the priorities of the city are.
And that's the culture change you want.
And
It's
that's what I'm talking, right, and that's what I'm talking
proactive
about,
instead of
like, yes, of
Yeah.
seeing where we need to go. Our fiscal responsibility is tied to it. You say what it is we need to do with our input to say, what can we do? Where are we at? So it's clear, and it's clear to the citizens. It's clear to us. We know what we're doing. It's not going to be perfect. There's always going to be, a tsunami warning that happened. Like, there's going to be things that happen, right? Because we can't control all that. But at least if we have a plan, then we can be working toward that, and it's clear.
It seems like one of the things that blows us out, and I don't know, because I don't know how, I do know. We have these crises, like all of a sudden we have huge legal fees we didn't anticipate, or all of a sudden we have, this big water leak, or there needs to be a new pump that's purchased, or those kinds of things that we don't have in the budget. It just seems like those are the kinds of things that have come up, and maybe.
Lawyer fees have really killed us, honestly.
Yes.
Well, and engineer, and
A lot of that
engineers.
shouldn't be every year, right?
Well, and that's and getting our act together and
Getting our act
planning and having the leadership of a great city
That's right.
administrator, all
That's
those things will help us. But those are the things I think that
Yeah.
is how we've gotten to where we're at, is just
Yes.
reactive governance.
It's
is where we've
amazing
been.
how
So,
one little mistake can cost you over and over and over and
Yeah.
over.
And you're always going to have those, but this is proactive.
Yeah.
This is a proactive way to say, this is what we're working on, and we all agree on this, and the budget supports it. And anything else has to come before the council to say, yes, we're going to add this to our work plan, or no, we're not. We're going to push it to next year. We understand it needs to get done, but
It's a little easier to make decisions by
Right.
just sticking to the book.
Absolutely.
I had a question, and Tim touched on this real briefly. I forget when it was, a few months back, but we're looking at the projection of a 3% increase in revenues from our property tax, but that doesn't include any assessment increases. And is that not, how do you ballpark that?
Assessment increases. So I don't know about your county. In Lane County,
So I rent.
We don't
in
get
town. I
around
own property
everywhere.
downtown. My property has tripled, more than tripled.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have some house in the shop in the urban growth boundary. And my property tax tripled in the last 4 years. I don't think that's the case in the city. And if not, how do we get the assessor to make that happen?
Right.
You know, maybe that's not what needs it, but are we looking at,
That was one
It's-
of the things on our list. to
it
look
it
at.
was, and it's not here. You know what I mean? Like when I look at our projected resources, the projection is for 3%, you know? What if it goes the other way? Or, you know, because you're looking at the market, right?
Mhm.
And so did we just lose 5 years of increased tax revenues and then now we're gonna see it go the other way?
Possibly.
And so what I'm saying is that we need to be on that. I don't know how you make that happen in real time or whatever, but Tim's question was, the county is so defunct, maybe they're not getting out with
Yeah.
the staff to look at these places, in town especially, because I don't know that, I guess they get just as much in town as they do.
I know I made a call. I made a call to our county assessor and said, hey, when are you getting out here? When are you going to reassess some of these businesses?
They're
We
coming-
know that they've done
every year.
updates.
They come
You
to
know.
the property out in the urban growth boundary every single year.
Yeah.
And it goes up every year.
Yeah.
I just,
So is the county getting more tax or
they still get their
3%?
89 cents or what's the county get?
59?
59? So they get their 59. Everybody gets more money, a little bit.
But I mean, is it stay at 3% or is it 3%
Well,
on the
3%
new
is
value?
just- The 3% is the
Max it can
inflation.
go. Mhm.
That's the consumer.
But say you have a $100,000 property and so it goes up to 103,000. But the
So
property
that's-
is all of a sudden now it's worth 200,000. Are we still getting it based on the 100?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's my
because that's,
question.
That's a
that's,
limitation.
But-
that's the
but
limitation. That's right. And it's based on 1990s numbers and it
Not
doesn't
until
go
the
up.
property sells.
Even then, it doesn't go, no, it
The only
doesn't do
time
that.
it trips really is if somebody does some kind of a large
Get a building permit.
building permit
That
and
was
it
my-
actually increases the capacity of the building, then that trips the county to come out and take another look. But it
Put concrete.
But they-
otherwise, they're probably not. And so, anyway, I'm going to entertain
That's
any more
just-
questions you have for me because I don't want to keep you.
Right.
I think that keeping a sharp eye on your resources is just as important as keeping an eye on your expenditures. And
Right.
You are the stewards of the resources. It's your fiscal responsibility
that's right.
to make decisions that keep the city healthy. The city council, it was one of their overlying goals is to responsible fiscal stewardship. And that was so they set their overlying goals for 5 years. So it's the same. It didn't change. You didn't go back and reinvent them. You just built the work plan to support the goals they set. So I gave extra copies of this. If you want them, ask for Melissa for them.
Mhm.
I'll call
Thank
you
you, Ann.
Marissa.
And this is the whole thing, is that this is the guidance and the leadership that we've been trying to get and the clarity. And so just
Yeah, welcome
really
aboard.
appreciate you so much doing that and that you and I can work together. And you'll be here in early January again so that we can carry out some of these things and look at them and try to
And then
see
what
how
is
we
our
can bring.
arrangement with, is what?
So Ms. Heath is contracted with us. So she basically, as she was saying, Dina does a really great job for the day-to-day things and keeping things going. And I mean, really great. But then this has been the missing piece that I know that, again, open, that I know I'm not a finance director to oversee all of that. And so this was, I believe,
Quarterly look at it or a monthly?
no,
look?
she comes monthly. So she is remoted into a computer in City Hall. And so she can work on our system with Tyler, with all that. We actually contract through Umpqua Financial Services out of Roseburg because she's works for them as with retirement and things. And so we contract with them for 40 hours a month, I believe it is.
Yeah, I tried
Although-
to this week's a little bit more, but I try to keep it to 10 hours. I work from home. A lot of times on most of your stuff, like preparing stuff, I can work from home. So I come once a month. I think it's important to talk to the staff, to answer their questions. Dina has questions for me on how I want her to do things. And then just really get a chance to talk with Melissa and Dina both for longer than a 5-minute phone conversation about decisions that need to be made. So I am very honored to be here. It was my intention in retirement to help small cities. I know how hard it is. I was there. And I had a particular contractor out of Portland that was for 3 or 4 years was on contract. And it was such a wonderful thing to have because there were times when I was in tears. I was just, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fix this. And she was so smart. And so I very much wanted to lend that same kind of help to small cities because it's so important. So,
We're so glad you're here.
well, thank you.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it.
I'm sorry to bear the news, but
It's actually not as bad as I had feared.
I know it. The only way is up, right?
That's right.
That's
See,
why
we're
the way
moving
I
up.
look at it
That's
is
right.
the only way is up, and it is absolutely doable. It's absolutely doable. I've seen it happen. So anyway, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thanks so
Appreciate
much,
it.
Ann.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fabulous.
At least we know where.
Okay.
Oh my God, I know.
Now we will move on to item 7, consent calendar. We got the minutes from the 21st of November and a OLCC license for.
Dragonfly?
Rapid Dragonfly.
And that,
We got a hand up over here.
We had some corrections for the minutes submitted prior to the meeting that I can go through when you're ready.
yeah, Miley, so is this vending gonna be on the property? Like on their property? It's not gonna be on the roadside, right? It's not gonna be on Highway 101. That's my only concern.
It looks like it's gonna be in the property.
It's on the property down here, yes. And
I just couldn't see. I couldn't see in the application.
They have a trailer.
No, I know. And I'm just, because of it's Port Orford and because of the historical of Port Orford, I'm just making damn sure that it is not on Highway 101. Like, it's not parked on Highway 101.
no,
It's
it's
around
on
the-
their
okay.
property, on their
That's
little
all I
flying
needed to know.
wedge.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's all I needed to know.
So this is,
Way more other, like, circumstances that have nothing to do with this.
is Dragonfly Farm, they're gonna do an eggnog or something? What's going on here?
No, they're having a trailer that serves spirits also. It's part of a.
Oh, Santa.
Santa, yeah.
It's a bar trailer.
It's a plant sale with Santa and some spirits to be beer, wine, and cider.
And they will be consuming their alcohol on private property.
They're going to allow minors because Santa will be there.
What do people mine for around
They'll
here?
have their little beer garden area,
There
probably.
used to be some
zoned
nickel
off.
mines and crystal creek and stuff.
Thirst Trap does this a lot.
You don't need miners.
What are you talking about?
The Thirst Trap LLC, the trailer that goes around, they're always in Langlois and all that stuff and everything.
Yeah.
They don't need to buy for it in Langlois. They're
Must be like
capital.
old
Properties. That's why they need to, because
Right.
we have it as a city ordinance.
Do we need a motion?
Yes.
Well, no, not yet, because if we're gonna wrap it all up into one motion, then Joseph will need to tell us about the corrections to the minutes that he was made aware of.
So, yeah, then,
But you got correction.
so do you want my input or not?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I was just, so with the,
Oh, you're right. I see why you asked if we needed a motion so we could do discussion and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
That's always weird on the consent calendar,
yeah,
but,
right.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we adopt the
Second
consent
that,
calendar.
then,
okay,
okay.
first. So you
Second.
got that, Joseph, and first, Brett second.
I guess my question was that, was this the water leak policy or was this the yard?
Garden water meter.
It was the pay, how they were gonna reimburse.
It was
water
the
leaks.
structure. It was the structure of the reimbursement that
Mhm.
was the question.
Is that what we call it? We call it
What page are you on, sir?
9?
Enchantment Board, yeah.
Page 9, we call it Resolution 2412 Water Leak Policy. Is that accurate?
It's more like probably should be water leak reimbursement policy, right? Is that what?
This should be the title of
Is
that
that-
document.
Well, is that the same as the,
I think that would be a good improvement.
what-
Because that was the one, remember, where we were describing, Joseph had figured out that the way we were
Oh,
reimbursing
yes.
it wasn't exactly.
Yes.
okay.
This is on
Leak
private
reimbursement
water.
situation.
Yeah.
So it's not garden water.
It was
It's not
it
garden
was
water
the
meter.
math. It was
So this was
basically
before
just
that.
the equation he's using
was
to.
second.
what month is this?
This was just the other, this was the second reading.
Oh, this, okay. Thank you.
Does that help?
That's much better. Thank you.
Excellent.
Good job, Joseph. Looks good.
Oh, thank you.
Then what corrections did you have?
Okay.
Oh, wait.
Can you
Because
just
we
say?
started talking about the liquor license, but then you switched to the motion, but then you asked a
I just
question
saw
about
this
the minutes.
that I
so-
would like,
But you didn't have a question about the liquor license part.
liquor licenses, I just was talking myself through.
Okay, gotcha. And so Joseph, corrections.
All right, one second. I got away from him, and that was my mistake. All right. Come up so that everyone, so that comes across the mic nice and clear. These were submitted by Council President Ann Velisis prior to the meeting. So first off, on page 8, number 12A, it is currently the Water Enchantment Board. That is not corrected as Water Enhancement, and she even provided that she would like it to be Resolution 21-14, Protecting Watershed Land for OWEB Reimbursement Grant. The next correction is also page 8, number 12A. Implementation is misspelled. Page number 13, the third paragraph from the bottom, part of it says the rest phase. That should be the next phase.
I do not have a page 13.
I do not either.
I do not either. I stop at 9.
Oh, it's item 13.
Item 13,
Item 13.
sorry.
There we go.
Okay,
There we
I'm
go.
like, I'm confused.
I've got one of those.
Okay.
Was that it?
And then one more on page 8, item 11A2. The final motion was made by Counselor Tim Pogwitz, not by Counselor Ann Velisis. Okay, so those are the corrections that had been submitted.
I don't know why I'm trying to figure out why I voted no on this. I don't think I had a problem with this particular.
I didn't know why you.
I didn't
Yeah,
know
I
why
didn't know
you
why
went
you
out of left
voted
field
no
on
on
that.
it.
I had
No,
no
I thought
idea
it
why you were
That
doing that.
was a different one.
Which one? I don't know. I just know there was one no vote last.
I thought it was Joseph's calculations that you weren't,
Was it that what it was?
I think that you weren't
Something,
figuring out.
something I wasn't, yeah, okay.
But then you asked
Real quick, Joseph,
Melissa about.
I got to change too because I was excused. So for new business on, I should be excused and not as a yes vote.
Okay, sorry about that.
I'm just letting you know. I stayed around for the vote of the last old business, but then I had to leave. So thank you.
Thank you for noticing.
Yep, thank you.
I would like to recommend that, since we're making corrections on number 13, that this water leak policy, I think it would be better to say water leak reimbursement policy.
Already got that as a
Great,
correction.
okay. Just because it helps to have the title be what it,
Because it doesn't, it could be
Yeah.
a leak in the streets.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. It just helps to be a little more precise with those titles.
I wonder if you could we ought to wrap the two up. Any reimbursement period ought to be water reimbursement. And then you could simplify, you could have one code, codify one piece of our work rather than two. And that would be reimbursements, water.
And
Then you could have your leaks, your garden hoses, because there's bound to be more someday, some other types of leaks that.
Well, this was just like a math thing rather than a.
Right, but like, I think that we're being told that we're doing things kind of complicated, and maybe less is more, so I don't know.
but we're just minutes.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
now that I'm looking at it on page 8, 12-4, the motion carries unanimously 5-0 to 1.
No. Thank you.
Oh, right,
You had a
right.
quick turnaround with this. so you recognize.
Yeah, the other ones have excuses. It's just we're good.
Is this the high point of your month when people get minutes? I
Yeah.
always enjoy it.
I would say the last month, there was absolutely no errors.
Yeah, I know. And nobody even mentioned it. It's always the
I
months
know.
like this. that
It
you know.
was like perfect.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
should I rescind my motion and just?
With,
And just say, or to add with,
correct.
yeah, I will
I'll-
rescind
I
my
rescind my
existing
second.
one
I-
and I will make a new motion to pass the consent calendar with edits, adjustments.
Perfect.
I have to do the second first. Just so
You
know.
rescinded it. Yeah, but now you have to unsend it if you want to.
And then I want to
Rescind.
Second.
now I want to resecond it with corrections.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. Tim?
Tim, yes. Tim, yes.
Greg. Gary? Counselor Burns?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Brett?
Webb, yes.
Hard to get to that button quick enough. It's right there, but it's hard to get to
Right
it.
after I asked, I was like, I shouldn't ask him
Shouldn't ask
first.
him
I
first.
know
Yeah,
where
that's
it's at.
mean.
Yeah.
You know that.
Okay, that's citizen concerns. Boy, it took a minute to get to citizen concerns. Please speak on agenda items only. Anyone online? Is there anyone online?
Just Tim and I believe John Isidore, because it says PW Super.
No other officials online that want to speak, though?
Nope, that's just us.
Moving on.
Stop it.
Caught everyone off guard at the first.
Public hearing, we have none, so we are going to go to departmental reports. Administration. Anything?
I actually was more thinking, because it was such a quick turnaround of a special session, that I did not prepare a big
Oh,
thing
right,
because
yeah.
it was a special session, and
No,
so
that's
that
good.
was
That's
my,
the
but I
same
think
reason.
this is
I
just
like
kind of the
that.
thing.
I like
Exactly what I was
See,
thinking on my
see,
mayor
and I could-
report for the
What
last.
could you possibly have said?
Okay.
I think we got a great download for the upcoming year after this meeting already from admin. I think it's pretty,
Yeah, I tried. All that.
What about finance report? You got any?
I don't know.
I could report that we did go to this
Oh,
Oh,
right.
I did go,
yesterday
Training.
training.
okay, we did go to a lovely training yesterday. It was really good. It was for new officials, elected officials, and also people who are not brand new elected officials. It was always just good to get a brush up. It was very, when you go to those things, you then are very careful about what you're doing and what you're, to make sure we're doing the right thing. So even though we're small, we want to do things correctly. And so it was really good to network with other places around, to get to meet some new people, lay eyes on the League of Oregon Cities lobbyists and people who are there to help support our cities around. And it was a good day of learning. So it was good.
I met the attorney who helped like counsel us through hiring Melissa. So it was sort of fun to be able to say, look, here she is.
Nice.
Nice.
And it was like,
Suckers.
we left in the dark and came back in the dark. It was a long day.
Yeah, it was a long day. Yeah, yes. So I guess I would say, and with this, I will not be in tomorrow. So that's about the only report,
Good.
part that
Love
I
to
have
hear
to
it.
see. There you go.
Public Works. Any questions?
Good evening.
There he is.
Yep, I'm here.
Like looking up.
Well, about the only thing I got to say is I really like Ann Heath. I think simplifying the budget will be an extreme accomplishment to help all of us that are managing their ways through 17 million pages to figure out what dollars where. She's got some great ideas, and I hope we move down or forward with her recommendations. She's got a way to simplify things and get funds into one fund, which will make it way easier for us to manage. So that's what I have. I don't really have a bunch of stuff. I will say that we had 15 plus inches of rain in November. We had a lot of down days. we got down to about right around 10 feet before we were able to get back on after that big storm. So we did it. We're back around 25 now with lots of overtime and some really hardworking crew. I can't thank them enough. We've got a great crew. They busted their ass to get it done and get the water back up to where we needed to be. And I'm really appreciative of that. And in closing, I'd like to say thank you, Pat, Mr. Cox there, Mayor Cox. It's been a great time working with you. You jumped in and helped us in the time of need on several occasions. The crew and myself really appreciate it. So I wish you well on what you do next. I think that's about it.
Thanks, John. You can still call me. I can do a volunteer form or something.
Yeah.
Okay, will do.
Then you could say whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot
And
more
you won't
fun.
have to wear your hard hat.
I don't have to do anything. Well, we better go ahead and
Anyway,
move
go ahead,
on.
move on from there.
Thank you. Please thank your staff for all of us for that. I was
Yeah, I appreciate-
thinking about you when all that rain was coming down and thinking, uh-oh. So really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was a pretty wet month, wasn't it?
Yeah, everybody thinks, woohoo, we got water. The guys can relax. And it's more of a
Yeah.
pain in the butt on those days, I think. At
Oh.
least.
Can I say one more thing out of Public Works? That we did have an extra baby now in our city of Port Orford. So we did have a staff member whose family had a baby. So that was super exciting. So
Are they working on the certifications or anything?
yeah, the child is already working on their certifications. Yes.
Was that Michael?
Yeah.
Nice. Police. Did I skip anybody?
No, and he and Chief had told me with this, because it was special meeting, he didn't submit
Okay,
things, but he
gotcha.
does a good job of submitting to you folks throughout all the time anyway, but
I want to go on record and recognize Hank's 10 years with the city.
Yep.
And
Wow.
I mean, this is the time,
it's been 10 years.
Wow.
And through that 10 years, whether you've noticed or not, our homes and our businesses were being victimized nightly, every single night, multiple cases of old women being robbed and in their homes, burglarized, whatever. And Hank's kept within his budget. He's made really smart decisions with the money that he's been given to use. He's made good hires. I think that we've got and the proof is in the pudding. When you have people complaining about high rates of speeds on back streets, that your police department's doing a good job, because they were in here, pissed off because I don't know how many police chiefs I've seen over the course of my residence here. I think I've been here for 35 years or 40 years or something now, 35. Anyway, I've seen all kinds of stuff, and just the fact that we don't have turmoil from that, it just speaks so. I wish I could bake him a cake or something. You know what I mean? Like, he's and his crew, his support. Everything about it. But I'm trying to think of, have we had a 10-year employee ever? Larry Dell, maybe.
Oh, Larry, right.
Oh,
I'm just thinking it's
Probably.
who?
Rick.
I guess it doesn't really matter, but
Yep.
a department head
That's a
like
big
that,
deal.
he's doing a great
He
job.
was only going to be here 5 years.
5 years, and I just think he's done a magnificent job, and the calm that he brings,
Mhm.
that's so different than what we've seen with some of the past chiefs that we've had. I can't say enough. I think the council did a great job in the hire of Hank, and we're lucky to have him. I just want to recognize him.
Thanks so much
Thanks for doing that,
remembering
Brad.
that anniversary. I didn't quite realize.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. He's been a huge part of the transition, and for me too. He's been a trusted advisor, and just to get the historical knowledge and things. And so he has been amazing. He's been really great. So thank you for saying that, because he's wonderful. great to work with.
Now, I think on social media, things get blown out and people get it in their minds that we've got crime all over the place, and
Yeah.
it'll be one incident, every 3 months or something, and things
We've-
get drug out, and it's not really a good picture of the job that they're doing.
And what's difficult, because when you look at like the reports, you'll see, the calls out. And success means a low call out rate. Well, then you look at that low call out rate and you say, do we need 5 officers? Or is this a place that we could make cuts or something like that? And then I would just say that, do you like the way that column looks? Do you, whatever.
There's a reason why
There's a reason why we got good guys. They know who to look at. They
know the
know what
community.
they're doing.
Yeah.
And we wanted community policing and we got it. And I'm tickled pink. Yeah. Okay.
Planning. Greg is not.
Greg left.
All right, can I?
Sure.
All right. Planning is still working on the DLCD grant, and we have public hearings scheduled for that for next year. Greg was going to go through a lot of the code revisions that we've been working on. Unfortunately, he had to go, but all of that is available on our website. So if any of you are interested, you can go through that, and then we aren't spending council time, to just have it read to you.
Sizable.
Yep. And then other than that, our last vacancy was filled at the previous city council meeting when all of you appointed Miss Corey Ashauer to the planning commission.
She's volunteered for a couple things.
She has. She was on our budget committee.
All right. And that's it.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you. All of you.
Okay, mayor's report. I am out of here. It's not as in-depth as my usual ones. I've been thinking about it a lot, obviously, though, and it has been a run. But there is some good stuff that happened. Like even just the raw water tank. That's so big to me. Like that's what lets me sleep at night, is knowing that raw water tank is moving forward, because it's like the cushion that we need that'll help us at least get a day or two. But any system can go bad after a month. But this is no fun. I don't like this stuff at all. But I really appreciate all you guys. And if you all weren't here and I didn't have the support through this rigmarole, it wouldn't have been the same. And it's all shaking out good. I'm super happy about who's replacing me, about who we have on staff, and that financial meeting, even though it sucks, like having that reporting and having like that being the forefront of what's good. So
instead of having the state come in.
yeah, I know, but that's the number one thing. And that's always, I love, because that to me, fiscal responsibility is why we're here. And so it starts with the communication. And there's some stuff that I kind of wish I could have chewed on a little more as a mayor or a councilor. Some building things going on, and some of the stuff that I've been.
You can have a lot of,
over the last 4 years.
you can do a lot from that
I know.
seat right there.
I know.
You're right.
A lot.
You don't even need to bring people that are constituents. You can load it up whoever you want behind you. It's there's a whole lot of stuff going on the other side of that table. But long story short, it turned out okay. I think we got some good stuff going on. The community building and the raw water tank, and we're getting some staff, and there's like everybody left in this last 4 years. We've replaced not just Melissa, but everybody. So it's been
It's pretty exceptional change.
So hopefully you guys are working on like more wholesome problems.
Standing on your shoulders.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
solid
throw me
foundation.
under the bus, do whatever you have to do. Just get fiscally right and be happy, and don't let her work too much, or the mayor. You guys, I cannot stress enough that you can't let them feed this stuff off each other. You can't let them go dark to dark too many days. So
It's true.
We'll try not
This time of year?
it's pretty hard not to.
I'm gonna say that's 20 minutes.
to, but it was
Yeah, I guess so.
12 hours.
But yeah, no, I wish I could have done better, especially last year, but I didn't, and we're in a better place than we were a year ago. So that's what you got. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you for the leadership.
Liaison reports. Port Web.
I'm just gonna, not much going on since the last report and it looks like crab season is going to start with, gear being set on the 13th, which would mean, deliveries would begin on the 16th. So that's happening for sure. That's always a big thing it's 90% of my money, a year. So it's good for the community. It's good for everybody and just bills that, port bills, guys fall behind, whatever, city bills, guys fall behind, whatever it is things are looking good there. And it sounds like there's going to be a pretty decent, price offering. So I would
Good.
look for people smiles on their face pretty soon. 1 out of 3 jobs in our community is directly related to that port. And, I think 80% of that revenue comes from crabs. So it's a big thing for our community.
Just be safe, please.
And always remember, as counselors, that's 25 successful businesses down there.
Yeah, every one of them's a Circle K.
Hundreds of employees. It's big when your average age is 61 years old. You can't convey enough. I'm kind of selling it, but it was nice. I'm phasing out of the port too, but it sure was fun yelling at people to get the hell out of the water today and go up the hill.
I wasn't going to even mention your.
Oh, no, I'm just saying it was fun to do that today with the tsunami.
Oh, yeah,
Two boats coming in at 11:15. I'm like, let's just lift you up to the wall and we'll go up the hill for 15 minutes.
I would never lift out if I was in the water.
I was surprised too.
Why would they do that?
Because they didn't watch that movie.
You go that way for safety.
Yeah, you go out.
Yeah, no, and I apologize for blowing through the roadblock, but
it wasn't blocked that much.
Whatever it was.
Don't apologize to me.
I didn't really mean it.
Everybody knows you driving around town. I live in the middle of town, so I know where you're at all the time.
I needed to get my butts.
School, RASC,
Nothing to report.
fire district, tidy,
Nothing from me.
watershed, Velisis, water enchantment or water
Yes,
enhancement?
today I completed, I'm so excited, we
She's our
submitted
enchanting enhancer.
the watershed enhancement grant, which is the grant that's going to get, we're going to try to get $400,000 back, to pay back our loan. So it's kind of like if we get this grant, we will have been able to basically buy that land with 100% grant.
That's huge, and
So-
people love that land is bought, so that's really
That's huge.
something to get
No,
behind
yeah,
and
if you could
put
do
some
that.
fire underneath, because that's big.
So that will be
That's a
one.
big accomplishment.
Yeah.
It's a big accomplishment.
That's been going on for 3 decades.
Yeah, it's a big
4
accomplishment.
decades.
This council get that piece of land bought, and it's part of a much longer decadal
Mhm.
project to secure our drinking watershed and make sure the city can take care of it and control it. So it's cool. But this will be like the final piece. And then when we pay off that debt, we'll be like ready to take on new debt. Like if we want to do any other project, it's hard if you have too many debts. So it's
That's
been super
right.
great.
Clear the books, yeah.
That's what your comprehensive plan will tell you.
Well, and that also looks really good when the people are saying, you gotta perform, we do perform, we got
We-
$500,000 bill property, so.
Yeah,
so.
and we will have gotten a loan and a grant, and we're doing well in that front. So anyway.
Thank you. That's great news.
Good job. Yep.
That's a lot of beans. I mean, that's a lot of clams.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ann. Parks.
Parks will be moving forward with the willow tree or the willow fence
This is budgeted
next meeting. They'll have more
for
stuff
payment.
coming to you for, I talked to them about that this last week. So
Nice.
we're gonna start with a little section to give you guys a good view of what it's gonna look like. And then move forward afterwards.
Mhm.
Cool.
Is there somebody who is going to take over the disc golf stuff after you leave?
I have one local that might, but hopefully,
I'm sorry?
I have one local that might, help out, but we'll see.
Greg, you have to find your successor. Come
No.
on.
Yeah.
No, hopefully we'll have one local that'll step up too. So, and hopefully we'll keep running a little bit more tournaments. So it'll be fun.
Oh, the
Been so
disc golf?
great.
Mhm.
Oh, that's great, Greg.
We'll try.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
Good stuff, man.
Councilor Pogwizd, TLT report.
Nothing on TLT front.
Main Street. I didn't know
Um,
I'd get that loud. I
That's
wish
Tim.
I would have known that a year ago.
I'm glad you didn't.
That's Tim again. That's Tim.
Oh, Main Street.
I
That's
just wanted to
fine.
mention that, Main Street put in over 2,000 volunteer hours keeping the visitor center open this last year.
Awesome.
And they've got the brand new website that's really very cool. And they've been working on ways of bringing tourists in some of our shoulder season.
Gary, could you tell me, so that building is a Parks building? At the
Visitor center.
visitor center, right? Parks is, so, and then Main Street is doing so is that, are they doing it for Parks or?
It's not the building in the back. They're pretty much doing it for the city. They rent it out to make Main Street an address, correct? An actual physical address for Main Street for their tax purposes and everything else.
Uh-huh.
And they've pretty much just taken over the volunteering aspect, to get it
They
staffed.
took on the chamber.
Right. And I'm just wondering what arrangement that is, if that's a,
Citizens helping out citizens.
well, they're getting grant money to function, right?
And they do some fundraisers, like the Hughes House Teas is really a fundraiser. And,
Point of-
It doesn't cost anything from the city standpoint for them being there. It's all volunteer work.
Well, I'm just.
And they actually pay the city for that building
That's-
to use it as.
I'm just trying to that's the way it works. You know what I mean? You pay for what you.
Yeah, they pay for that back room in a sense, to store all their materials and have a physical address for their.
And that ties in with what Ann was saying of the,
I'm not being critical of it.
No, I know you're
just
not. You're just trying to
understand.
figure out what it is. Yeah.
I hate to do this, but point of order, I'm gonna need a motion to extend this meeting.
Oh, no way.
I'm going to make a motion to extend this meeting.
I'll second.
Ask Greg.
Any discussion on extending this special meeting beyond 2 hours?
Have to extend this special meeting beyond 2 hours because we have to give Mayor Pat a decent send off at the end.
That'd be a decent one, just like, no, okay. So I'll call for the vote. Counselor Pogwizd.
Yes. Yes. I already heard
Tim,
that.
yes.
Counselor Tidy.
Yes.
Counselor Burns.
Yes.
That sounds like we're doing a meeting then. Counselor Rask.
Yes.
Counselor Velisis.
Yes.
And Counselor Webb.
Webb, yes.
Wow, it was unanimous.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because I'm here otherwise.
Okay.
Greg's wishing.
Now, I don't know if I cut Main Street off and we're ready for emergency prep, but, okay. Anything go on with emergency prep lately? You guys do anything today?
We haven't met yet, but I wanted to mention, and especially after today, we're going to try to come up with a quick and dirty plan that if between now and when when the council agrees on the main plan, what are we going to do if there's certain events like today or grid failure or whatever might happen?
I was thinking today.
We're the ones that are going to have to meet somewhere.
Yeah, where's home base is the
I
first
was
question
thinking
for
today,
sure.
like we were on one hill, these guys were on another hill. It would be good to know who's going to be on what hill and.
We have a trailer for that, isn't it? You guys have the trailer, right? The
Right.
radio trailer. So when we first put the tsunami horn up, what was that, 10 years ago or something like that? And it was volunteers got it together. It was a fundraiser. They got this horn. It worked 3 times and then it quit. And then it went from, we really need one of these horns to, if you feel the ground shake, run. Don't say that word.
Don't say that.
That's not going to work because I didn't feel the ground shake. And that was a 8 point something or whatever. And there was 6 of them and I'm close. I mean, I'm drowning if that occurs. So I guess I would ask that we reconsider our understanding of what is good and not good enough. And in my opinion, that horn is just worth its weight in gold when something like this happens. Because I heard,
Did you hear it?
but just it, see, the other one sounded a little bit different. The tsunami one, I was like, oh, wow, they got a big fire going. You know what I mean? Or something, you know,
Is it my,
and they would,
I didn't hear him at all.
is
yeah.
it my remembrance? I think this happened before I got on council, but I think I was at the meeting that when this came up last time, council decided to not pay for the upgrade, like the horns weren't working because of Everbridge or just what you're saying. So like there was a juncture and council decided to not spend the
So
money. Is that what happened? Was anybody on council at that
I don't
time? Tim,
remember.
do you recall? Tim Boggs?
What I recall is there was that discussion, and that was part of it. But also, if we have the real earthquake, 8, 9, the electricity's going to go out. The siren's not going to work anyway unless you want to put a backup generator on it.
and that's what they've said, but I think they told us that, Tim, but I'm gonna have to, at this point, disagree with that assumption because this was a 8.0. There was 6 quakes and it was,
Down in Eureka.
that's the one that gets us.
But the tsunami was only, I mean, from watching on shore, the tsunami was super tiny.
And you never know. That's what
So
the
it
thing
could
is.
be big, even
Right.
if it was far off. But
Well,
when
the
we get
close
warning-
one,
yeah.
the close one's the
No.
one that gets you, the
Yeah.
near shore, right? Not the distant
The
water
near
one.
shore.
That's the one.
Near shore will kill you.
No,
See,
this
they
was
want-
just off Eureka.
45
Yeah, and that's the one that'll get you.
That's the one that'll get you. But my point is that we've made this assumption that we would feel
Shake.
we would feel this Cascadia event. Well, I didn't feel this.
Mhm.
And
But the-
because,
Didn't get a big,
but the earthquake is what you feel. You don't feel the wave coming. You feel the earthquake that
if we
causes
feel
the
that
slide,
big
that causes
earthquake,
the,
There's a difference between the Cascadia, which we're not even going to plan for. Basically, there's no way people are just not going to make it through it.
you're going to make it off the beach. I'm going to make it out of my house if the horn goes off. You know what I mean?
I'm saying the roads are going to be buckled. It's supposed to be 90 feet. The land's going to shift 90 feet to the west.
So
That'll be awkward.
There won't be
that's
any
like
buildings
the
out
biggest. So why
Now
did we
that's
why did
wrong.
we shut down our offices today?
Cascadia events.
Right? Why did we shut down? Why did all the stores close? Why did everyone evacuate?
you got the warning.
The horn went off, right? Some horn
We don't
somewhere
have
was
a
going off.
So
Well,
what,
this horn was going off. My
horn was
point
going
is
off.
that
And it's like, do the best we can.
that's what I heard, and I got my text. I did.
Find a spot, you know, and you think it's the most basic
The
thing, like
towers
everybody's gonna
aren't
end up in
gonna
the fire
work.
hall, but then something
If-
like today happens.
If you
it's
want to
like,
follow
oh,
that line of
we really
thinking,
need to have a
then the cell
spot.
towers are
And then we
down.
need to talk about if that's not accessible, who's gonna
And
go there? And
I just, what I saw today was evidence that you can have an earthquake big enough to send a large wave to town and not feel it. And you've got, 6 minutes or something.
So we didn't get a large wave.
Exactly. You
And the
don't
thing
feel
is,
wave. I-
those kind of tsunamis, they're never big enough to really even come into town. Town is like 20 feet. A 20-foot wave,
But, and I,
it's got to be more than 20 feet to come in and wash the
So-
And I
town
think
away.
what Brett is asking though is, I mean, just to, is
I
to ask
think
that
that there's a-
committee to get clear on this for us.
Well, there's a lot, I think that we're like, kind of, maybe we're talking about different things. So NOAA told us to get safe. You've got a tsunami, get the hell out of the low, okay.
the whole coast.
And we didn't feel a thing.
right.
So the argument that we didn't have a big wave is just like,
And that happened to us in 2010 too. They gave us a tsunami warning. They said, get out. Everybody went up to the top of the hill, waited for 6 hours. It never happened.
I
and then
understand
everybody went
that,
back to
but
home.
so,
It was a distant
Historically,
tsunami.
those aren't big enough waves to do any damage. Historically,
okay,
but there has been Cascadias in the past, and what records say,
every 270 years or something.
right,
And we're at 400.
or-
Mhm.
yeah.
So
Why does NOAA ask us to?
why are they telling us to get out of here?
I have no idea.
I think that they're
Because
probably.
they are erring on the side of caution, just like when they call us and say,
I
it
know
might
that.
blow really, really friggin' hard tomorrow, so you got to
Well-
get prepared. They didn't know if there was going to be a wave or not until 11:25. They had helicopters and airplanes flying around literally looking for a wave.
That's
So
right.
it's like Mother Nature. We don't know what the hell's going on, and that's the whole point, is to be
That's
as
my point.
prepared as
My
possible.
point is our assumption that you will feel the ground move
Right.
and shake
Right.
is not a very safe assumption to make.
That's what you do in a town that doesn't have any resources.
We have a horn.
And it
We
went
have-
off.
We have well, no, it didn't. That was our fire alarm.
It was the fire horn. Yeah.
That wasn't our tsunami. What I'm asking is prioritize. Is a horn forever? Horns were very important. And it was very important to this body, to everybody until we got one. And then it was important. And then it broke down and it was like, well, you don't even need one if you feel the ground shake. But, you know, just watching it change
Mhm.
and then using today as some kind of evidence that I didn't feel the ground move.
No.
And Noah told me that I was at risk.
Right.
So
And I think that's what happened. Like I will say, we were here in this exact spot having a staff meeting, our monthly staff meeting. Every phone, because we all have two of them, was like, is like carol of the bells. Like everything started going off, and it was the earthquake and all the things. It was like, okay, stop, drop, and cover. And okay, well, we were like, didn't feel anything. But then when the tsunami went, then it was, we need to go. And we need to go do that. And so we were able to do that. And I know that I didn't personally talk to him, but I know that the fire chief came in and for two separate runs, 2 10-minute runs on this horn until he knew he needed to get away. So I do know, I don't know. My ignorance shows that I didn't know if we have a particular tsunami one or if it was just the regular one, but he came down and put it 2 times for the 10-minute runs. So I do know that
So the
that happened.
county used to, we would have drills the first Wednesday at 10 a.m. of a month. And we would have a drill and the county would push the button and it would all come on. Well, then all of a sudden that button wasn't working so good.
Mhm.
And then they sort of lost control of it. And then I'm not exactly sure what happened from there. That's when we kind of threw our hands up, I guess.
I think it had to do with the county, because I think I was here for that meeting, but I wasn't council. It was like. There was
a long time ago.
cost associated with it, and the county, I think, maybe made the decision that they didn't want to keep up that.
I
system.
think there were like $200,000 or something.
There wasn't money
Something like
for
that
it.
going on, but I mean, like maybe
And I think it was the
all about a
repeater tower,
remote
too.
button that you could
I
push.
think it was the repeater tower when they upgraded the repeater towers. Like
That's
Dennis
probably
Castle
what it was.
Literally like duct taping
That's
stuff
probably what it
together
was.
to keep it going.
And they got a
And
grant out there.
when they
for
got the new towers, the other new technicians were like, sorry, we don't work on dinosaurs.
that. I
We're
mean, I'm just
in
like, how badly do we want our fire chief
Yeah.
sitting here
exactly.
pushing a button in the tsunami zone?
Right.
Maybe there's a way that we can, and I'm just asking.
And
you.
that's the
I'm
silver
just
lining
saying-
of the day. We have an emergency committee now. We have
Right. I'm just
a
expressing
catastrophe that didn't happen that we know that we have a lot of stuff to work on. So it's a good day.
Just express those concerns to you, Gary, and maybe you can take them to you understand what I'm saying. That's,
Well, but I still feel like I'm coming from a place where there's no money and there's need for money to do anything. And that's
We just put
tsunami, when
together-
everybody's got the alert on their phone.
except the tourists on the beach.
No,
A
they
lot
have
of
it.
people don't have cell phones.
I mean, there's a lot, our kids playing on the beach. I mean,
There literally was a
we are
guy in a
making
kayak.
A lot of assumptions. We are making a shit ton of assumptions when we say everybody's covered. You know, like, let's
They
not
are
think
not.
that
They
way.
are
We're
not.
not, we're not saying that. That's all we've got.
Okay, we
Well,
just put together how much money for a community building? I'm just saying,
You're talking $200,000 for a siren.
okay, what's a life worth?
I'm just.
One
saying-
life. I think it's $1 million, I think is what, but my point is that maybe there is the appetite amongst the community to put one of these things together. And maybe your committee might have maybe somebody in your committee is going to have the same thoughts that I did today. And that is that we talked about the 30% of the income in our community we could have lost today. And what's that look like? You know, and so it's a big, even if it doesn't come in and wash out everything, you know, those tourists on the beach
They're not going to know what the siren even means.
well, I think that we have Battle Rock Park that you put
Oh, that's a good
signs
idea.
up. We have a park, a city park that doesn't have any tsunami warnings.
I watched the local police officer. I was down at Battle Rock as soon as we got the first alert, and I watched one of the local police officers come down and try to just shuffle people away. And I watched the fire department roll by with a loudspeaker saying, "Please get off the beach, go to higher ground."
Right.
We were doing stuff. You know what I mean?
We
were
tried, but signage, right?
I get that.
Isn't signage a pretty?
It says tsunami every single person that's not from here freaks out because they see tsunami evacuation
You enter
zones.
the town, it says.
Yeah, there's so many places around here that people, as a
And we're
non-local,
working
But-
on more
So if you
signage.
don't know what the horn is that's what I'm saying. Education.
But we can't afford signs. We're going to have to spend money, our own personal money, to buy signs.
It sounds like we need to come up with some ways to generate revenue for that committee. The committee's got. I mean, what can you do?
I agree, but I don't know where that money's coming from.
Maybe you do a frisbee tournament
We
with.
need containers. We need the property on,
I used to
Jefferson
do a
Street.
5K with my.
we've got priorities, let me say.
I used to do a
We've got
5K
priorities.
and we'd with Dawn and we would generate several $1,000s once a year. We would do it. Maybe there's somebody else that wants to do it. You know,
should
maybe
go to their committee meeting.
me.
You should go to the emergency committee meeting and talk to all the members on the committee about your concerns.
Or well, Gary can bring it back.
Well, that's why
but
we have a.
no, but that's why you should go as another concerned citizen, though. You've been here for 35 years. You have some outside the thoughts that maybe the other commissioners do.
It's just the same thoughts that we had before our horn broke. That's my point.
But all
how
that
we're
time,
thinking.
nobody's thought about how to organize a plan. There hasn't been a
response.
plan.
A response. How about the first thing you do is turn on a horn?
Yeah,
Tells
but
people away
if
from-
nobody, like on this one, everybody ended up on Hensley Hill or on 18th Street and everywhere. They were packed, stopped, deadlocked. People didn't know what to do, whether
That's
to get out of their
the
cars.
way it always is up there, yeah.
And so the tsunami siren, to me, it's icing on the cake. There's just so many things that need to be done. So there's me and there's 3 of us that are doing everything. Well, I can only do so much, Brett. And I feel that
I feel like you're.
other
I'm not trying
counselors
to
need to be
criticize
helping.
you. I'm not trying to criticize you.
No,
or your
I'm just
work.
saying we need
I think
help.
it's great.
We need help
Right.
to do what we're even doing. But you throw a tsunami siren in,
We
I
own
just got to
one.
tell you,
We own one. We own a tsunami.
but it's a piece of rusted
Well,
junk by
Is
now.
it? I don't
needs to
know.
be like, you guys, let's not, I mean.
Yeah, no, I don't want to bog it down. I
So
just.
you do the research, figure it out. I mean, Pat remembers it's the repeater with the county or something else.
There
So
was something with we used to test every first Wednesday at 10 a.m. That was.
Until it stopped working. And yeah, and they're all, you guys are saying the same thing
Right.
in a way.
And I guess I don't understand because we have this thing that goes off every lunchtime and we have it that goes off every Tuesday at 6 and we have this. So, but they're not the same
They're not
thing.
the same
It was
thing.
louder.
It was-
This is a good, I mean, that was a good hunt. I mean, we heard it go off long time.
But some people came today and said that they didn't hear it. But what I will say is I did go up 18th because I went up to the fire hall to make sure, and that's where we went. And I would say that up there, at least, it did work. I mean, we found some things and we're going to debrief Corporal Perry and I and a few other, Wyatt from next door and everything else. We are going to use this as a learning experience to be able to say, what is it that we need? Hank is finding me a mobile radio to be able to have, and I'm going to be put on there on the fire, app to get that so that I can help with those things too. But I think having the idea of, okay, where are we deployed as city staff? Where should, a couple of the public works trucks be? Where should I be? Where are we? Because we did have people across, which I think was good too. And we did see people respond to their phones. People grab their dogs, people grab their kids. Not a good idea to grab your kid from school and not let the school know that you took the child, however, and that was something that happened. And as a
that was. a-
that's scary for people. So, you know, I understand it. I totally understand the thought, but that, you
I
know,
guess there's
that-
a lot of
In an
people
actual
going out to
event,
the,
though,
there was a
none of
lot of
those
people going out
updates-
to the high school and it's like, why are you going to take them away from a safe
Exactly,
area? you
and that's
know?
what, exactly,
They
and that
just
was,
wanted to be together.
One thing, I gotta say this before I forget, because it clicked in on all this mutual conversation. Get a damn timer that doesn't, not a timer, that you can just click to on.
Yeah.
And then you can turn it on and leave and not come back every 10 minutes and turn it on.
right, and that was the thing that
And
sort
there
of
might
startled
be-
me, is that this
Sorry.
building
Or
too
I
is
would just
at,
stick a piece of cardboard in there.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
No,
So I
maybe
think
it's
we have-
as easy as that.
It
You know,
is,
I
it's
don't
just a twist timer and I know,
And it can only go to,
it just there, you know, you twist and it goes,
Peg
you
it.
twist and it goes. It
know.
doesn't
Drill a
have.
hole and put a peg in,
on.
tsunami peg. Dink.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
And beat it.
Break in case of tsunami.
Yeah.
Are we good, moving on?
No, Gary, I'm not trying to criticize at all. This was something that I learned about our assumptions, having watched our assumptions change overnight when that thing quit working. I'm just throwing it out there.
And he was literally in the seat when they were deliberating over getting the siren and having all those conversations. So, old business, none.
Joseph has a,
If it's all right.
I think. I don't know.
Hope it helps alleviate Counselor Webb's concerns, but I can also confirm that there were 2 rounds of the sirens. I'm not sure if the second one was the tsunami siren or not, but it was noticeably louder than the first round of sirens that went off, at least from where I was, which was up near the State's Head Park.
Yeah.
So I think that wasn't there 2
Yeah, I think
tsunami
that-
horns? There was one on
Coast Guard Hill.
Coast Guard Hill and then one on top of this building. And it was so big and heavy that was a concern for the building, the structure, the integrity, but very good, thank you.
Did you hear my suggestion of putting
Thank you, Joseph.
Trying to
redevelopment?
help.
Oh, yeah.
thanks.
There you go, yeah.
Okay, so we got one thing left on this agenda, and that is the continuing action item for the raw water tank scope of work provided by Civil West. That's on page
it's in the green
13 in the
section for
green
me,
tab.
continuing action.
I move to authorize spending by Civil West up to $410,292 for engineering and by CCD up to $55,000 for administration and environmental review to be reimbursed by our 2024 raw water tank community development block grant.
Second.
And this is money that we already got the grant for this.
This is the money where we got the grant, and one thing that's a little bit tricky about it is the scope of work is for like $2.5 million, but we're only authorizing these amounts that we were just talking about, which are the amounts for doing the first phases of it, which is planning and the environmental review. And grant administration is going to go through 2 phases. And apparently, after we do the first phase of this is when we then kind of apply for the second part of the grant. But we're in the lane to do the whole thing.
And this needs to happen first.
We have to do this, and we have to, pass the resolution so that this can get kicked off, and then Civil West starts working on it, and CCD also.
And they're going to be helping us with the
That's the CCD.
evolving
piece
with
of it.
the plan.
And what's really cool about the CCD piece of this is, so we have, like 8 grants now going, and it's the back end management that we're trying to figure out. And so as much as we can have CCD written in, that means they do all the reporting and paying attention and all that kind of stuff. And if we write it in from the outset, it's covered by the grant. And so,
Sweet.
and increasingly, we're going to try to make sure, because I don't think we've done, I'm figuring it out, that we should also be getting indirect costs, which will help to pay for our city time. And we need to do more of that. But anyway.
Any other questions on that? Okay, I'll call for the vote then. Counselor Tidy?
Yes.
Counselor Webb?
Oh, Webb, yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Rask,
Yes.
and Counselor Velisis.
Yes.
And Timmy P. Bog West.
He's gone.
Oh, did he go?
I'm glad.
Timmy, you still
I'm
there?
here.
Counselor Bogweds.
Tim, yes.
All righty.
Been your last chance to say his name.
Well, I like that that was the last
You're all
thing that we voted on. That makes me feel pretty damn good. Did you guys set that up that way? Nice.
What do you say?
There could have been other stuff. So we're on to considerations, citizen considerations, counselor considerations. I like it.
I got
I
one.
think, okay, you go first.
Or no.
No, you go first.
Oh, I just wanted to thank the outgoing class here, Greg, your work at the parks. Really brought things alive and got the youth, youth involved in government is just so valuable compared to us old folk. You know what I mean? It's just great work. And I want to personally thank you for your work with the city and wish you a happy retirement from it. And Pat, same for you. You've managed and overcome unsurmountable, just amazing what you're able to pull this city through, and simultaneously, knowing you personally, some of the personal challenges that you've been mastering. And the people of this community were lucky to have you as a leader through this period of turmoil. I don't know that any other mayor could have kept things together as you did. And those outside of these chambers don't know all of the things that we know. And if they did, I think that every one of them would thank you profusely for your work with the city. I can't thank you enough for just manning up and getting us through this shit. All right.
You're here.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Brett. Thank you.
And I want to say the same thing in a little bit of a different way too. Yeah, I'm not going to say thank you for, no, that was good. That was good. But I won't even say it in a different way. I'll just add a few minor things, which is to say that Pat, your level of caring and dedication to the city has been so high and so inspiring and tremendous. And I really, and so as Brett said, we all have seen some of that and some of the really hard work you had to do behind the scenes to get us through some really tough times. And so it's such a gift that you've given to all of us, and people don't even realize it, what it takes to keep the city going, but really appreciate that. And likewise, Greg, really appreciate all the work that you've done in our parks. And it's been great to get to know you. I'll just mention, I'll keep knowing Pat, but since you're heading off, it's been really great to get to know you and work with you, and really appreciate that.
Thanks.
Thank you. And I've got to re-hit up what they said to you, Greg, too. Like, I know it's frustrating with the last couple of years we've had, but you really did move the ball forward and you did take the parks to a different place. And this is a thankless job, and we're all going to want more at the end of the day. But really, you did some amazing stuff for parks. In the 10 years that I've been here, it's firing right now, and you had a lot to do with it.
We have some little gifts from fellow council members.
I appreciate
I'd like to say thank you, Greg, as well, for bringing parks out of the dark ages. And you guys, you've got a lot done, and we've had some financial difficulties and you didn't get to do everything, but thank you. And Pat, thank you. You have carried the ball, man. We've had a tough 4 years, and you carried the ball for us. You did all the hard work. We appreciate you. Thank you. Happy holidays. Happy holidays to everybody. And please tell all your staff members that I said happy holidays.
I think
I'll do it.
too,
I'll do it, Tim.
he's gonna hang up on us.
Yeah, I'm done. Okay, well. Thank you. Do I do that before?
Yeah,
or
I think
after session?
open your
Is
thing.
that an
Yes,
open-
yes, please.
Is this an
Yes,
open
please.
meeting?
Yeah.
I like
Do we
this.
have any more meetings at all? And then
Hopefully not.
January, do I need, I just remotely sign into a meeting to be? For the,
Yeah, I don't know.
So you should attend.
right, I think I do, right, to turn over the January meeting?
You don't do much. I mean,
Doesn't it
your term
end
ends, but
On December 30th?
everybody
Thank you.
that I've
Nice.
seen usually comes to the
Okay,
first meeting.
can-
I don't know why they do, because they really don't even, the term ends the first of the year. I mean, you have no power at
Who
that
swears
point.
in the new mayor?
What the heck is that? Is that a thong?
I do.
Yeah.
Oh.
Body one.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Oh, man.
What does it say?
That's a nice Port Orford cup, so I remember where
Oh, good.
I'm at. A nice little coffee cup.
I figured we had to make sure something would not break since you're going to be in your backpack.
And you can put Mai Tais in there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Well, you don't worry about him hurting anybody anymore.
Last meeting, I had somebody-
Thank you.
That's cool.
It's really
Look on the other side.
Right? And I'm like, no, that's green tea.
Hey, that's me. What is that? Thank you. That's awesome.
Is it etched
It's
in?
got a,
Careful with the rain.
cheapers. That too. Good. So the cup has a map of Port Orford on it, and then it says,
Oh,
"Thank you, Mayor Cox," on the other
Yeah,
side.
no, it's awesome.
And then
Oh, fabulous.
Oh, I get one to take home. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you very much.
And don't hit your head with that one.
Oh, it's fine.
Hey,
It's got a
Don't-
nice
I
It,
know.
it was a gavel with Mayor Pat Cox on it with his date.
nice. Don't forget to take your sign, Pat.